All right, guys, I am so excited to share with you today. The power of Mote, you've probably heard it said several times throughout MoteCon, but Mote is a simple tool in the sense that it allows you to add audio to doc slides, really about anything with QR codes and links. But when in the hands of creative educators, Mote can be so powerful. And I'm excited to share how it especially can be powerful in the realm of literacy. We know that literacy is reading and writing, but really literacy is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We emphasize that a lot in our district. And Mote really kind of becomes the star when it comes to the speaking and listening piece. So I am excited to dive in. You'll see I'm going to give some shout outs to Northwest ISD teachers because as an instructional technologist, I have the best job ever. I get to encourage and support teachers who make Mote come to life in classrooms. So you'll see that a lot. And we'll dive in. I love this quote from NCTE. It says, place value on reading, writing, speaking, listening, and creating in your students' work. Ensure that reading and writing are not the only ways in which students are acknowledged and celebrated for taking in ideas, expressing their thoughts, or demonstrating understanding. And I think Mote really helps us make this quote come to life. So in our quick time today, you are going to notice a lot of celebrations and shout outs given. In fact, Alex Herrera is going to be joining us in this MoteCon session at 6:30. So I'm going to share one example from her class, but you really want to pop on and hear from her as she talks about working with her emerging bilingual learners. So these are just some other teachers that have helped this session come to life. I want to give a quick shout out to our ELA coordinator because partnering with her to help with some of the ELA templates you're going to see really just makes me feel like these are super powerful and they really are going to help our kids with literacy. And then I work on a team that's just amazing, the most creative, fun minds out there. And I'm sure everything shared was touched by them a little bit. Today, we're going to start by really the whole time camp out with Mote in Google Slides. I know there's power in QR codes, which I love, and a lot of different tools, but all the examples you'll see actually fit in slides today. So we're going to start the session by sharing inspiration, just some quick snips of the ways teachers have used Mote in the classroom for personal voice, fluency, and student ownership. And stick around because I'm excited to share 3 templates that you can then customize and use with your learners despite your content, your grade. Hopefully you can customize those to work for you. I love this student quote. She actually moted it in, but she said, Mote helps me in my writing creation by letting me read what I wrote and letting me do recorded voice captions. I really like Mote. I didn't know if her voice would come through in the stream, but it's that personal voice. It makes her writing her own, and she has voice in it. So these are just some ways that I've seen Mote used for literacy in the classroom. First, this is a 3rd grade class doing a nonfiction writing example. Some of the kids even turned the Mote icon into the animal they were researching and talked from that point of view. And then, simply taking maybe books that they've written in Google Slides. And as an extension, this 4th grade teacher said, you can turn that into an audiobook with Mote. So they really got to practice their fluency and talk that way. And I wanted to share this 2nd grade example. I don't know if you guys have heard in younger elementary grades, but it's like, why are we doing so much digital? Don't we need to have like the hard copy, paper and pen skills? And I love how this teacher made it a hybrid because I feel like that's the real win, right? When we get the hard copy skills, but we also pull in the technology piece. So they wrote their essays hard copy. Then they took pictures and put them on Google Slides and used Mote to read the pages aloud. It allowed the students to have that fluency practice, make it their own. And then she also allowed them to have an about the author slide at the beginning where they talked a little bit about themselves. So that just took that right and made it fun. It felt like something published that could be shared with families and teachers. This ESL student did not do a write hardly without Mote. It really helped him get his thoughts out before writing. And then after writing, he would use Mote to read it and make sure he had everything like he liked it. So I really do encourage you to learn more about EB students in Alex's session today at 6:30. But I just wanted to show that that's one way Mote is helping these students with literacy. This is an example from Alex's class. And like I said, just a run through of some examples to get you excited before we dive in. But this student created their own digital library. So it says books I've read and books I've made. So he put different book titles. So some of them he created, some of them he read. And then if you were to hover over this icon, it's him taking you through his library, talking about the books. So what a way to create a culture of reading. And then this was shared so that everybody in the class could see each other's. A lot of good ideas here. And we'll share more on reading celebrations here in a minute. I don't know if you guys have seen the holiday card exchange. This is where cards can be exchanged from class to class. Should totally check it out if you haven't seen it already. But the theme was snow globes this past year, and Miss Bass, a third grade teacher, sent digital cards across the globe using this snow globe. But her students did poems, and they would read those poems, and they linked them in here. So I imagine just the faces of the kids from the other side of the globe getting Fort Worth cards, but not only just a poem written out, it's the student talking about the poem. So another way to make that personal connection, even from afar, with people that you don't even know. Okay, one of my favorite examples. This class had a class pet named Franklin. It was a class pet turtle, and they actually got to research all about turtles, and they would talk as if they were Franklin using Mote. So they could actually, learn about turtles and then talk about Franklin's life from the point of view of Franklin. So if you were to hover over Franklin here, they had a lot of slides. But if you were to hover over, you would hear Franklin talking, and that's these students right here. So I really want us to think about how can we use Mote to talk from another perspective. It could be the student's own voice, but it could be talking from the perspective of a character, or in this case, a class pet. And some of you might be thinking, some of these students are changing the icon. How do they do that? So since I'm using my camera for MoteCon, I thought I would just show you here. So when they go to add the Mote, which you're going to see here, they right click and go to replace image. And then they can add a quick selfie. They can upload the image from their computer. They can add anything that they want to. So think about talking from the point of view of Abraham Lincoln, or, the turtle, or even adding a selfie. And we'll look at an example with selfies later. But that's a really neat way to change that icon into whatever you want it to be. Okay, we're about to wrap up just some of these examples, but I love how this teacher just took things a little bit deeper with depth and complexity icons. So really, she would have these icons that get kids thinking deeper, but this was a second grade class. So as opposed to just typing out all the responses, students would talk in, and they were able to expand a little bit more on the multiple perspectives icon in this case, or even just justifying thinking. So thinking about literacy, maybe outside of the ELA classroom, talking about, in this case, a science example, but you could justify your thinking in math or anything like that. So I want everyone that's following along to think about, how can your students share their voice? Before we dive into templates, did these just spark any ideas for you? This is an art piece, actually, and the student made that art piece come alive by changing their Mote icon to the art piece that they made. And these art pieces actually had to deal with the students' personalities. They did like a personality test, and then they made like a drawing, and then they spoke about them. So very, very simple, but the kids were so proud of these creations. So shout out to this GT teacher, and the kids just had a lot of fun. So yeah, if you have ideas, feel free to put them in the chat, but I was hoping that's a good way to get us started with just some real life class examples. Okay, so the first template that I'm excited to share is one you can use now. Beginning of the school year, it can help you introduce Mote to your kids. It can help you build relationships with them. It can help them generate some ideas for maybe a future write. And it really just helps your classroom culture. So this is having students connect with emojis. It's called the About Me Emoji Edition. So I'm going to go and let you just see this happen in action. So what the students are asked to do is they would get this slide and they would pronunciate their name, first of all, so the teacher would know how to say their name. And then they would drag in 3 emojis that represented their summer. If you teach secondary, you could even have the kids add their own emojis. But since I'm primary elementary, I just put a bank of emojis there. Students, it's easy for them to connect to emojis. Anybody can see a sunshine and think of like, oh, I know something I did in the sunshine over the summer, right? So for those kids that are really shy, that maybe if you just ask them out what they did this summer, wouldn't say anything, they can pull in the emojis and connect. Mote is where then they are asked to expand on that. So, okay, now tell us about it. Not a whole lot of rules here. Just tell us about what you did. And the teachers start to get some stories. It's differentiated because some might just say, I went to the beach, and some might go into a full story of when they were at the beach. It also asks, so it's a 3, 2, 1. It's then 2 emojis that represent what you enjoy, and then 1 to represent what you're excited about. So you can start thinking about your kids. You could go home, at the end of the week, you could look back at these, you could listen to their voice, some of their stories, and then find a way to connect with them when you come back to school. So, oh man, Sarah, I had a hard time connecting with her, but I see that she loves art. I'm going to ask her about that on Monday. So it's kind of a cheat sheet for the teacher to come back and see what those kids liked. And obviously you can change out these questions if you want to make them a little bit different. So I want to share, there's my mouse here. I saw this exact template happening today in our classrooms, so I captured it and put it in my slides. So this is real life at two of the different campuses. It was so fun to see the students really just enjoying this activity. I even put the timestamp turned in today, August 18th, 8:14 a.m. So I just want to show that this can be something you turn around and use right away with your students. They really enjoyed it, and it really was pretty easy. This was a fifth grade class, but I think you could do this with all grade levels. There's the text thing coming out today, y'all. We saw it today. Okay, so if you like this template and you're like, sign me up, I want to use it, you can just go to these slides, tinyurl.com/mote literacy. I'll share them throughout the presentation, but I have linked in all these templates so that you can make your own copy, use it however you want. Feel free to tag us on Twitter and say how you used this in your classroom or even customized it. Okay, template number 2 is all about goal setting. By the way, shout out to Shelly Hall. I see some of her comments coming in. Me and Shelly used to work on the same team, so she knows how amazing me and ISD instructional technology team is. So goal setting is something that's so important, but not only teachers setting goals, but when students set their own goals, that's where the true ownership comes in. So this template's going to help us with that. I love this quote from the Writing Strategies book. Our ELA coordinator pointed me toward this quote, and I thought, wow, this template is just this quote coming to life. It says, helping kids to articulate clear goals for their work and supporting them with strategies and feedback to accomplish those goals makes a huge difference in their ability to succeed. Really focusing on articulating clear goals for their own work is huge. So once again, this template can be customized, but what our students would do is they have a rubric, and the three main things that they focus on in our district are language conventions, development, and structure. And that's probably pretty universal. So what they would do is drag in their main focus. So they don't have to know their exact goal. They just think, okay, I really want to work on like my lead. So you pull that in, and then you're going to use Mote to expand why you chose that goal. There's also some boxes to type in what strategies are you going to use to meet that goal. So it puts it on the student. Very easy to choose what you want to work on. And then you're expanding, put what you're going to, how you're going to do that. And then you come and visit it at a later date and you reflect on your goal. Maybe you have your write next to you, your writing that you did, and you think, okay, how did I do on my leads? Well, now I can use Mote. They don't get that writer's block saying you have to reflect by writing out everything and having it perfect. They just get to talk in. How did they do? You can be honest. You can set the same goal, but then hopefully they would do this maybe once a quarter, once a unit. I talked to a teacher today who plans to have this slide 4 different times. So they're going to reflect at the end of every quarter on their writing goals and then make a new one. She also had the fabulous idea of sharing this with parent conferences. So sharing the slides with the parent gets to hear their kids set their own goals. They get to see their write, and they see how the students are empowered to set their goals here. So, yeah, I'll be excited to hear if you guys think of other ways that you could use this template. I know that you could change this maybe to be a reading rubric or just a different kind of rubric. This was just one that we shared with the LA teachers for writing. Okay, and then once again, I have this template that you can snag, you can customize, you can use, please use away. But I think it's really important, the reflection piece. And then also the fact that the teacher could go in and leave feedback anytime. Maybe there's a student who's struggling a little bit and they want to encourage them on this template. It's shared, between the teacher and the student and then the family member if they choose. Okay, we're going to look at another template and just some ways that Mote can be used for collaboration. This actually was shared last year, but it's too good not to share it again. This was a tug of war template. It was put out a few years ago by Esther Park, but it really helps with literacy in the sense that students are writing persuasive rights. They need to learn how to take a side. They need to know reasons for why they believe this or that. So she put the question, 4-leaf clovers are lucky, kind of just a silly little statement, right? But the students have to decide on a continuum how much they agree and disagree. They would record their Mote. This teacher had them use the arrow keys, which I think was very wise because you get a bunch of Mote speakers on the slide. So if they use the arrow keys, they know exactly which one's theirs. And then they right click and replace the image with their selfie. So then there's name attribution. We know which Mote goes to which person. The teacher can see who's responded, and then she can click on any of those to hear them. So I thought that was really great. And that template will allow you to go in and put any statement that you want. in professional development this summer, we said, the beach is the best place for summer vacation. And man, to hear some of the responses, people were very passionate either about the beach or like, no, I don't want to go to the beach. But it was really cool to hear people take their side. And then you could have a right follow this. And then once again, how they changed that speaker icon just by right clicking. Okay. Alinny actually shared this on the Mote ambassador or with Mote ambassadors and Mote teachers. So I highly encourage, if you are listening and you have not become part of the Mote community, a Mote certified educator, or a Mote ambassador, to kind of think about that. It's really cool way to get to know other educators. But we took the template that she shared, and then I shared that with our ELA coordinator in order to use this for reading celebrations. Our students do reading celebrations at the end of every unit. So the instructions would be to claim a slide, add a picture of a book that lingered with you during the quarter, and then add their Mote recording sharing their voice. So once again, total shout out to Alinny for sharing this with the Mote community, but then how we took this and then shared it with students. And you guys, Alinny is going to be on sharing with us after this at 6 o'clock. So you are not going to want to miss all the goodness that she's going to share. But in this template, students can take, we call it a book selfie, but our Chromebooks, we're Chromebooks and we have a self-facing camera. So they just hold up their book, snag a picture, and then they would drag in their Mote. Now, what I like about this, it is collaborative because this was assigned so that everybody could edit on the slides. So they just go claim a slide, put their title and author. So not only are they held accountable to saying like, I read this book and here's why it lingered with me or why it was significant, but they can see everybody else's. It would be neat if there's some librarians out there to maybe partner with teachers. I could see this being on like a TV in the library, just cycling because it's showing the books that the kids connected with. That could be cool. Even making a QR code and maybe putting it by like your classroom library so they could start just having that culture of reading and talking about books and enjoying books. So once again, Alinny put this out and it was just so cool to go through and see all the different books that people read. Of course, mine has Dragons Love Tacos too, because I have a 5-year-old as of today. But you can have all different kinds of books here. So if you like this template, you can have it there to snag. And this was just edited a little bit to be used for our reading celebrations unit in Northwest. All right, so I want to hear from you guys. Which of these templates are you most excited about and why? They are all linked in here. So feel free to comment in the chat or just to think to yourself, like, okay, of these 3 templates, what am I most excited about? How am I going to use it? Make your copy. And I would love to hear how you're using these. I feel like these templates are really just good for allowing students to have ownership. You know, coming in, some students just literacy is not their thing. So voicing in with Mote helps them start getting their thoughts out, helps them start connecting, and then seeing themselves as someone who has ideas to generate and ideas to put in the world. And two of these templates are actually on the Mote Learning Zone. So if you haven't hopped on, we maybe just need to put the link out there in the chat at some point, but it's a really great idea, a really great way to get classroom ideas. There's a blog post, multiple blog posts every month where you can go and get some inspiration. So building classroom relationships, that was the emoji one. You can read about it, snag templates. Class book recommendations was in there. And I just put this so that you could continue to bookmark that site and go back and see the things shared even after MoteCon. And then lastly, we can't finish up this session without talking about the power of feedback. Obviously, our students are really proud of what they do. So anytime you have the chance to get in and leave feedback, it's very powerful. Mote not only makes it personal, but it makes it efficient and easy for the teacher. This 5th grade teacher, her students wrote Google Docs, turned them in the classroom, and she said, I will not leave text feedback again. She said, I feel like it was more worth my time. I used to just give them a grade and type like a few little things. She said they never read it, but they will always listen to my voice. And I think that's so true. You always listen to somebody's voice note, but very rarely are students going to like read the full comments. You know, some will, not all will. And she said that Mote was a really easy way to leave feedback on her students' writing. So that feedback piece just has to be referenced as we finish up here. So we do have some time for Q&A, but I do want to give, once again, a shout out to the amazing Northwest teachers who inspired these slides. Hop on and watch Miss Herrera later. Alinny for her writing celebrations template. That was such a great idea. Kelly Palmer, our ELA coordinator, for kind of pairing the writing goals rubric. You know, we worked together to pair those up with Mote. Esther Park, the Tug of War template, and the NISDI team, the best thought partners and smartest people in the universe. So I really appreciate you guys listening in. The tiny URL for this session, it's tinyurl.com/mote literacy. You can go grab all of those templates that you want to use. I would love to connect with you and answer any questions that you have. Feel free to use those links. I'm happy to connect that way.